Welcome to Peace Freaks, a parenting and family podcast for the freaks, geeks, nerds, and weirdos, the outcasts who went on and had their own. We're used to being the exception to the rule, so come along with us as we try to also live exceptionally. We're here to help make you the best version of your freaky family. All right, welcome everyone to Peace Freaks. This is our Wednesday edition where we talk to parents just like you who are out there living their best life or the best you can given what's going on. We are here with Mr. Adam Power. We're going to talk a little bit about one of my favorite things, and also one of those things that makes me less than a normie, we'll just say. Adam is one of the few people I know who is openly into nerd games as an adult, and God bless you, sir.
Thank you.
You're doing the Lord's work as far as I'm concerned, which is amazing since I don't believe in that. Why don't you introduce yourself to the people listening real quick?
Sure. Well, I'm Adam Power. I'm still in the Libertatheist podcast, though we're on a bit of a hiatus at the moment. I'm also starting a brand new podcast called Inspiration Point. We actually just released, and we talk about D&D stuff.
Strictly second edition, right?
THACO for life.
Yes, you're going to make them work through THACO.
No, I'm a normie with 5th edition, but I do a lot of homebrew stuff. I really like to play with the system. I like to bring in a little bit of the things I believe into my storytelling. It's only fair, right? That's what everyone does.
Yeah.
So, I have my players working on their own businesses.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of downtime in between their adventures. They've helped develop a brand new settlement, and they have lives outside of killing goblins, right? And they're trying to build up themselves, their community, and use their profits for things that are beyond like the next +1 sword, right?
Dude, if they wanted to be gold farmers, they could have started WoW.
It's not about gold. It's about the relationships you make along the way. I joke, but that's seriously important.
Well, if you're doing a really good campaign with people you intend to play with for a long while, that is incredibly important, because I think the mythology that you build is what really, really makes the game fun. It's when you're doing callbacks from something that they did in session 3 and, session 50 years later.
Right.
That's the stuff that makes it like, holy crap, I thought that guy was dead, but now he's like the guard for this castle, and he's what's keeping us from storming.
Well, part of my hope is that when players take some ownership over things that they make, that they feel emotionally attached to,
Aww.
and that, when my players do something that's good, let's say charitable for NPCs or for each other, that they do so in a way that is voluntary. And we experience going through the motions. And that is the way I sort of express how I feel about liberty. I do it through game.
Nice.
And I think that that's what most storytellers do. I think we say the things that we want to say through our games. Now, it's not just propaganda. I mean, at the end of the day, we're there to, explore dungeons and kill dragons, right? Like let's not forget, kind of the crux. Let's take a step back and, hey, we're a bunch of guys. We're trying to have some fun, blow off some steam, and that kind of thing. But if we can learn some lessons, if we can get a different perspective, a lot of the guys in my group are hard left, and I could very easily say, well, I don't want to play with you guys because we're too different. We're going to disagree on too many things. But I'm a bit of a masochist. And
here, I was assume you were the guy with the DM guide and they didn't want to do it. So I guess they were stuck.
They were a little bit stuck. I actually have one other guy in our group who's also kind of a career DM. So we actually do a lot of stuff together. But he's really come a long way. And I think that he has perhaps come from a place where libertarians are the problem and are the enemy and are, all these terrible things, to going, at least this one, is just a guy, and he's a pretty normal guy that likes, things that I like. And I think I think there's a big victory in that. We have to stop dehumanizing each other, right? Like, you get upset when somebody punches the Nazi without any kind of aggression. That doesn't mean you like Nazis, right? It means that you don't like aggression. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so what we do when we attach a label like Nazi to something is we just say, well, that's subhuman now, which is ironic because that's what the Nazis would do, is cause you to be subhuman to make it easy to attack you.
Well, and for those listening, what Adam is actually references, right before we were talking, it mentioned how I don't get to play D&D the way I would like to anymore because the people I used to play with were much like the people Adam plays with, only when it all came down to it, I was uncomfortable being around people that would justify punching people people in the face for a shitty ideology.
Yeah.
But that's it. I'm sorry until they try to hurt someone or even make it seem like they're going to. That was the worst part about it. It was all over like Richard Spencer, who, he's a piece of shit with dumb ideas, but he never actively promoted violence against anyone.
No.
His big thing was maybe we should pack up our balls and go home. This hasn't worked. And I feel that way about the left-right divide personally. I'm like, I think we should both just kind of walk away. It seems like the only way to make things work is, you know what, you guys have a world that you want and I have a world that we want over here. Let's just try and pursue these separate.
Yeah.
However we can make that happen, whatever.
Yeah.
It just seems like some people want other people to kind of participate in their game and you're not allowed to leave.
Yeah, I definitely get that. I think there's a different way that we can communicate because, I'm a sucker and I like my friends and I like to have people get along and that kind of thing. And, it doesn't always work the way I want, of course. But I feel like storytelling is this interesting avenue where we can have a discussion and not have that discussion at the same time, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, it's a good way to workshop out ideas because, you can, the stakes are low. I walk into this situation, we can kind of see what would happen. How would this really work out? What are the, what's the thing I always say? What are the
incentives?
Yes, the incentives. What are the incentives for everybody in this situation? How does it play out without the threat of death, to real people?
Yeah.
Just paper people.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, but at the same time, while they're paper people, hopefully we've created the groundwork that you care about that. Right. That you care about those people, that we feel emotionally connected to fictional characters. Right. That's what we would like to do. And, I just barely had presented a player with a scenario where they could use the body of a shapeshifter. You were talking about doppelgangers earlier.
Yeah.
And they had them in their clutches. I said, you can use the body of the shapeshifter to get your own body back. Long story. But anyway, and this person said no. Right. And that really surprised me because I felt like that showed some character growth. That showed some, hey, maybe other things, even if they do upset me, maybe they're worth some degree of compassion, And that's what we need in our political debate. We also need more D&D in our political debate. People need to get over themselves a little bit.
Sure.
Let's pretend to be elves for a few minutes.
Well, I don't know if you heard, but apparently, orcs are blacks.
Right.
Oh, yeah. That whole thing.
I saw Bright. Yeah.
Right. Really trying to make that.
Wasn't Will Smith in Bright? So orcs couldn't have been the blacks because the blacks were the blacks. So
yeah, he was. He was.
Yes. Yeah. Bright was not fantastic.
I know.
But I do love Will Smith. So I hand wave whatever I don't like that he makes. You know what I mean? I just go, whatever. Men in Black was amazing.
Right.
My big thing with it, I was interested in it and I never bothered to watch it. Me and my buddy Tyshawn started writing a book a number of years ago. And the game was we'd each write a page.
I like that.
And we'd give it to the other guy to write the next page.
Yeah.
Now, you could redo the page if you wanted to redo the last page. But then you'd have to also do another page on top of it. So if you didn't like the page, you had to write 2 pages.
I like that.
So we're playing this game, right? In these back, we got probably 25 pages deep before we I think our lives shifted. He went off, joined the Marines and stuff. But the story we were writing was specifically about these goblin people and what was going on. And this, I think, actually has a lot to do. I think Iceland is kind of into this whole thing. Mm-hmm. Basically, the number of people on the planet kind of forcing us to see the things that we perhaps willingly omitted from our vision before. Like apparently, goblins and people have kind of always coexisted, and we just don't notice each other. There's just something that happens in the periphery. But due to resource scarcity and things like that, we were kind of put into a position to have to start noticing each other.
I like that.
Yeah, and there was like some post-apocalyptic stuff that we're getting into, but
yeah, we didn't forget that there was fun stuff going on, right?
Yeah. It wasn't all messaging, but
I love that, getting an economics lesson into your story, right? I teach economics at the high school level. I teach economics and government.
Oh, wow.
And so
I don't believe you, because if that's the case, you guys are doing terrible.
Listen, I just need them to pass the test, but I do fill up time because honestly, for me to teach the standards, it doesn't take long. So I get a lot of extra time to go, here's Thomas Sowell.
Yeah.
Let's read some of that. Here's some Henry Hazlitt.
Nice.
Let's teach you something. And it always happens. And this is where I think a lot of conservatives could do a lot better, is making that compassionate argument. I also care about things like homelessness. Mm-hmm. I also care about whether or not people have a roof over their heads, whether or not they have enough to eat. I care about that sort of thing. But what the solution that is often offered makes things worse, not better. And if you can explain why that is, I think that's very powerful. That's what I love about Sowell, by the way. Thomas Sowell is one of my heroes. He's incredible.
Oh, sure.
And they have a lot of his books for free on Audible if you have a subscription right now. I don't know if you Audible includes a lot of books now.
I just wish he would read it himself.
I know. Don't even get me started.
Oh, yeah, but that'd be great.
I refuse to read most of Tom Wood's old books because I want him reading them myself.
Yeah.
At least the Bob Murphy book, I would have preferred Bob read it, but Tom read it, and I will allow that one.
Yeah, that's kind of close enough.
Yeah, I did Real Descent a few years ago on audiobook by Tom Woods. I can't remember if he was the reader or not. He wasn't.
He was not, and it was a little weird, especially because you listen to his show so much, you're used to him talking about stuff. To hear somebody else, like you can hear Tom's words and like his mannerisms in there.
Yeah.
But like it's not his voice, and it was really weird.
It must have just made more sense for him to hire someone. He probably just couldn't spare the time because,
I'm sure.
It's not like he's not a professional speaker.
Well, I think that it's a combination of things. I think that is definitely part of it, but we also have to deal with that book's a little bit older, and at that point, it wasn't the norm for authors to read their own books. Now it's kind of become like something that we expect. Want my authors reading their books, otherwise, fuck you guys.
Yeah, pretty much.
They'd hire a professional reader. I think that was just how you did it back then. Because that book's 2008, I think is when that came out. Okay, it couldn't have been.
Oh, Real Descent? No, I would say it's like 2015, 2014, something like that. I think it's not that. I listened to it a few years ago when it was new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the first thing I'd listened to book-wise.
Yeah, I liked Real Descent.
They have how the church built Western civilization. That's for free now. You can listen to. That's included in your membership.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll get to it. It's not read by him.
No,
but I am curious. Liz read it.
I found it at the library. As a matter of fact, you can find Sowell and Woods at the library, which I thought was interesting.
Glad they haven't completely been memory holed.
Yeah, but it's something, right?
So, not to pivot too harsh, it's been super fun talking specifically about politics, but I'd like to talk a little bit more about kind of your position. Like, so you deal with kids in the context of school.
Yeah.
You have children of your own. You mind talking a little bit about that? How many kids you have?
I have 3 children, 2 daughters and 1 son. Highly recommend daughters. I'm a big fan.
I've got one myself. They're all right.
Okay.
They're fantastic. My youngest, I would do anything for her. She is the universe. I took my eldest to go. By the way, my daughter's my oldest, and she's 10.
Okay.
And I took her to my coworker's farm, and where she raises pigs, but she also has some horses. And my daughter got to ride a horse for the first time.
Wow.
So I scored some major dad points. I think I almost have half as many points as mom does now.
Oh, I bet.
So that's pretty good.
Nice.
Say it's love and mean it. One more time with feeling. Hidden in the bedroom, bed in the back room of our minds. Say it's love. Say it tonight. Make beautiful sounds. Play the notes not there. Sing along. Turn up the song. Make sure it's loud enough. Sing along. Sing along.
Our last episode was talking about when we went and took our daughter to play with the chickens and ducks our one friend has up here.
Yeah.
He took it upon himself to, in the past year, start raising ducks and chickens for eggs at first, and then eventually he's moving to meat and whatnot.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like we're all kind of trying to become a little bit more self-sustaining.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not changing our entire lives around, because I really hope things don't come to that, but to be a little bit more prepared can't hurt.
No.
We all saw that when they did what they did with the shutdown initially,
Just 6 weeks. It's just we just need to flatten the curve. That's all. Just
Yeah.
2 weeks. A fortnight.
Yeah.
Like, look, man, I've been following this since January, long before it was ever a thing in America, and I was watching with horror, going, "Liz, this is coming here. It's going to be bad." And
oh my gosh, you were right about that.
and then eventually, all of my worst fears came true. The worst part is you could also watch exactly how much bullshit it was, because you could see them playing with the numbers before it ever got here.
Oh my gosh.
The thing that you could watch is like basically, and it sounds so good on its face. Everything they did was to be a little bit more cautious. Oh, we got to do it this way. We got to change the way we're doing it to make it do this, to make it, we got better safe than sorry, better safe than sorry. Well, better safe than sorry always meant escalating the number of cases.
Yeah.
And look where we're at now, where deaths are practically nothing. It literally turned out to be a really bad flu for some people, and then not as bad a flu for other people.
Mm-hmm.
And yet there's no semblance of ever going back to life as normal ever again.
I don't know. I mean, I live in Arizona, so it might be a little bit different, but people are like opting out of caring.
Maybe.
Right? Like people don't. They're like, oh, I forgot my mask in the car. Okay, does it say on the door I have to wear it? All right, fine. They like, they'll hold it up like on their face, and they'll walk in the door and then they take it off. They're like, eh.
Oh no, you get plenty of that still. That's not really the stuff that really concerns me. It's the stuff that's coming in the next wave, when after they get past the drama of the presidential race. I mean, Biden's already promised if he wins, I mean, masks are going to become permanently mandatory from a federal level.
Yeah.
And then if he doesn't, then
It's bonkers.
I mean, I think that the violence is going to continue at about the pace it is right now, even if he does win. If he doesn't, it's going to get a lot worse. And I'm not happy to live in a city because of that.
No, I imagine not. Yeah, but that is why maybe agorism is a good thing to understand these days.
You mean just economics in general?
Well, sure.
The economics minus the government?
Yeah, that's true. But there's also hey, this is a chicken. This is where eggs come from. Food comes from a place.
Right.
It doesn't grow magically.
I just keep hearing him say economics over and over again.
Well, economics is life. You know what I mean? Like it's the whole game. And
yeah.
I know a lot of my friends on the left would not agree with that, but I think that if that's the argument, then you might not know what economics is, right? And the education of that topic for children, I think, is incredibly important, to try to do the lemonade stand experiment if you can.
Yeah.
If you can avoid going to jail.
And these are talks I've had with my oldest a lot of times. Okay, let's say, you are charging 50 cents for a cup of lemonade, and a whole lot of people show up and they buy up all your lemonade, and a lot of people go home unhappy. What should you do? And then she was like, I should raise my prices. And I was like, you're the chosen one, like, congratulations.
There you go.
You're 10 and you understand more than Congress. All right.
So you've already talked about like adding economics into your D&D and stuff. Is that something that you do with the kids as well?
Yeah.
Do you game with your kids? Because that's we're working on getting Irma started with Hero Kids.
There's still a little. They get way too much screen time, if I'm being honest. And so it's hard for them to sit and enjoy what I think of D&D and role playing as kind of a slow burn experience. It's more akin to book reading than it is to video gaming.
Yeah.
And I love video games. Don't get me wrong. I love TV, but I definitely feel like the little ones are often overexposed to screen time. I think they need to learn a little bit more patience, because things come too fast. They come too easily.
And that's always been something I've waffled on. And the reason I waffle on it is because when it comes to screen time, the bottom line, that ain't going away anytime soon.
That's true.
Like the technology in the world is not going to become any less technical.
Sure.
And I've always felt like if you artificially limit the amount of screen time, you're doing a disservice to your child interrelating in the world that the world is going to be interrelated in. Now, I think we should also be cognizant to try our best to teach them how to understand the limitations and the effects of the world being that way. And maybe give them glimpses that there is a way it used to work, and whether or not it ever goes back there, to understand where we came from. Because I hate to think of first off, look at the learning curve we had moving towards technology versus our parents. And I don't want to kind of cripple our children in that way, moving into the next generation, because if it only becomes more technological, you literally are limiting their ability to fend for themselves in a world that doesn't give a shit the reasons for why you didn't play games as much as possible.
I think that some of that is inevitable, though, because you're right. It's like this tide, and it is the way the world is. So they need time to disconnect and understand that the rest of the world that is still real, is still relevant.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
Mhm.
regardless of the internet, chickens exist. Right. And that's very important. Right.
Right.
So it's okay. I think the mistake that is easy to make as parents is that we can say, okay, you're grounded, you don't get the thing, but then we don't fill up that time.
Yeah.
Right. Like when you ground a child, you're in a way, if you're doing it right, you have to punish yourself.
Mm.
Now, hopefully it won't feel like a punishment if you do it well, but you need to take them somewhere else. You need to engage that space with something else.
Mhm.
That's really important.
See, punishment is where I get economic. I don't punish.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
okay.
You've made a choice, and these are the trade-offs if you continue to follow the choice. This is what I'm going to do to react. So if you choose to continue, that's fine, but you've been warned as to what I'm going to do in retaliation.
Gotcha.
It's not like I'm not punishing. I'm like, you've got a choice here. These are the effects that you interrelating with me and the other people in the world cause. So be warned. And typically it tends to go the way I want. She may be unhappy for a few minutes, but she'll tend to end up on what I would consider the appropriate decision. Sometimes not. And then she grumbles when I take away whatever it is that she's doing. I'm like, well, Irma, I can't do this thing that I'm doing, and I'm the one that pays the bills, and I need to do it. So I guess we have to stop the thing that you're doing. You could have kept doing it if you were doing it the respectful way I told you to, but you couldn't. So here you go.
Yeah, and you know what we want to do? We don't like to punish. We don't like to, let's say, teach harsh lessons either, although we feel that it is our duty to do so, and rightfully we should. What we truly desire, I think, as parents, maybe I'm speaking for myself, but I doubt it, is I love to reward. I love to give. I love to take my kid to the farm.
Sure.
But when I was doing that, she was also disconnected from the online world. And I don't think she missed it during that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that when we interact with our children in a way that helps build them, you call it reward, call it punishment. We, of course, would prefer to have pleasant exchanges with them.
Incentivize the behavior you want as opposed to disincentivizing the behavior you don't want.
Yeah. I mean, it's simple.
Yeah.
And it's easy for us to talk because we don't have any video game systems around.
Well, yeah, that doesn't hurt.
I quit playing video games after I lost 2 weeks of my life to Civilization 3.
Wow, that's back in the day.
Right.
Well, literally, it did nothing but wake up, play Civ, go to work, wake up, play Civ, go to work.
At least you went to work. That's good.
I do have a friend who was playing Destiny and was arranging the skulls in his hovel and lost a job that way. He thought rearranging skulls was in his fake domicile was more important than going to work.
Well,
apparently.
listen, if he's on Twitch and gets a lot of subscribers, then he makes the right choice. But
there you go.
But if he was not,
oh, he wasn't. This is way before that shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we don't have a lot of that temptation, and when we do have games, we tend to try and make it things that like are learning based. And I mean, honestly, Liz discovered a learning based math that's an RPG.
Yeah.
That, like what is it called, Liz?
It's Prodigy Online. You do math problems to cast spells, and I'm sure there's probably some easier questions and some harder questions. So I'm sure it's not all working, but yeah, she enjoys it, and at least she's doing something relatively educational, I suppose.
I like that. We'll do family Minecraft.
Okay, yeah, I've heard so much about that. She's like, why am I the only kid who doesn't know what Minecraft is?
Oh, I love Minecraft. You can do the survival mode. You can also do creative. I mean, it's essentially digital Legos.
Okay.
Did you ever talk to the guy that did Liberty Minecraft?
What's that?
Oh my goodness. I'd have to look up the guy's name. He created a server, Minecraft server, specifically dedicated to economics, basically, and trying to create a completely, as much as you could, an accurate exchange system through contract. And like, it's very, very, very detailed in how he set everything up. And it was constantly getting worked on. But it was just for people who wanted to kind of go in there and start dealing with a property-based system. It was just,
that's interesting.
Maybe we'll have to have him on at some point because it was interesting. I don't know much about Minecraft. I've had a few friends that have played it over the years. It just looked like a bunch of boxes and like.
I mean, yes,
digging holes and.
I'm assuming it's more than that.
It seemed almost like they took the fun out of World of Warcraft and it was just the grinding part of it. I don't know. We're just gonna build and dig stuff.
Yeah, a little. I don't know. You probably never played The Sims, then I'm guessing, but
I never liked.
You did.
I liked SimCity a little bit, but
Well, I did back in the day. Yeah.
you know what? I like Roller Coaster Tycoon because you could kill people.
Wow. Okay. I like Roller Coaster Tycoon because I was making people happy. I guess we
Right.
got different things out of it.
I mean, whatever works for you.
I watched a video a couple months ago, and it was a dude playing like modern version of Roller Coaster, whatever it is, and like it's pretty intensely awesome, like what you can develop now game wise in there. But this guy like wanted to make something that could kill as many people as possible while still getting people coming to it. It was part of the thing is like
while still getting people.
Right.
Oh yeah, and like I think it was like 140,000 people he managed to kill with this one ride.
Oh my gosh.
It's awful.
And like it was like you'd have people that would get on, and the ride itself would like shoot the trains out into space, and then they'd hit a wall, and then he'd build tracks that would like siphon the people into like flames.
Oh my gosh.
It was hilarious. Irma did not find it as hilarious as I did. She's not quite as into that stuff.
No.
But you know what? If a group of volunteering adults want to end their lives, if they own themselves, if they are their own property, they should be able to ride a super fun roller coaster of death if that is what they wish to do. I fully 100% support that.
It's better than a suicide box, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. The first episode of Futurama, that looked painful.
I guess.
I would much rather do a roller coaster of doom. I mean, you don't get any more hardcore than that.
No, probably not.
Probably something, but I can't think of
No, it's pretty good.
So, what are your kids' hobbies into? Like, obviously, you're into the nerd gaming thing. Is your wife into that as well, or is that something that you don't share?
Well, we shared it a lot more before we had children, right?
Yeah,
Well, probably makes it easier. Yeah.
we shared a lot of things more before we had kids.
Yeah, I imagine. But yeah, my wife and I, we used to play World of Warcraft together. We didn't meet through WoW or anything like that. We actually met, I would say, tangentially through Dungeons and Dragons. I was playing D&D with a guy and his girlfriend. She ended up being the cousin of my future wife, and we were set up on a blind date.
Nice.
The night that I met my wife, I was playing Neverwinter Nights on the PC, which is based on Dungeons and Dragons. And I got a phone call from this guy, and he said, "Hey, my girlfriend's cousin's in town, and we didn't want her to have to be the third wheel. Do you want to show up?" And I almost said no because I was into my game.
Liz knows a thing or two about almost saying no.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Well, ultimately, I did go, and we met. We hit it off really, really well. Yeah, we used to play World of Warcraft. We used to play a lot of D&D. We played Star Wars TTRPG briefly. She was a Wookiee
Okay.
because that way she didn't have to talk.
It's a good move.
I was like, "Do the Wookiee sound." She was like, "No, it's not happening."
See, if I didn't want to talk, I would have done something like had my mouth sewn shut.
Oh goodness.
Whatever I was going to do was going to be creepy. Hence why I got into World of Darkness. The minute I found out there was like
Right.
creepy ghosts and goblins and vampires based RPGs, like yes, more of this. Where have you been my whole life?
Yeah, so we don't really share that world as much anymore, but she, let's say, tolerates my lifestyle. Like she knew what she was signing up for to a degree, and I try not to abuse that power. I try to think about what she needs and that sort of thing. But she, I don't think has ever asked me to cancel like a game night or anything like that. She knows what's important to me, and we try to respect that about each other. So what is this almost no story? Now I need to know your side of this.
Oh, no. It was just basically Nick, I think, got me to ask him out. And so we were going to go out. And I was really kind of reluctant to do it because he was weird and he was artistic. And I figured he was too artsy for me to like make any difference. But he kind of reminded me of my brother a little bit because my brother is like big and he was into creepy stuff, at least as my frame of reference was back then. Nothing compared to Nick.
If only she knew how creepy.
Yeah, in actual reality. But at the time,
You don't see my 18-inch pinhead. It's on the other side of those walls.
right. You should stick him up back there.
I really should get him into the frame. That would be nice.
Because he was like, that was literally the first time I went over to Nick's place. He was just like there above the bed. And I'm just like, okay, this is my life now. Good to know.
There's a demon watching us fornicate. This is not the life I chose for myself, I thought.
Yeah. But yeah, no. So he reminded me of my brother. So I did actually go through with the date. And that was the whole thing.
Well, you showed up for the date. We didn't have the date until years later. But that's we've told that story to death.
Yeah, it's a whole nother story.
Long story short, if we'd actually gone on the proved date, we would not still be together.
Probably not. They were like, this guy's an asshole. But anyway.
Because that's exactly what she thought of me when we eventually, like, I've been married to you for years. God, you're an asshole. But now you're a school teacher. I'm curious how all that works out. Obviously, you're not homeschooling your own children, I assume,
No.
because you're probably within the district. That doesn't sound like they're doing if you're working. How is being a teacher right now? How are you doing that?
It sucks. I don't like it.
Aw.
We're personally doing a hybrid system, so the students are on school twice a week. We have them in sort of A and B groups. I have to sanitize the room between periods, and then they show up, and I give them my lesson, and then they go home, and we do the next class.
Okay.
I have about 4 periods right now, and where I'm teaching mainly politics and economics, but I also get to teach competitive gaming, which is fun.
Oxygen to 78100. Cabin pressure holding steady at 58. Amps is 26. All systems are go. Roger, 20 seconds. Go. Roger. Indicating 6G. Sanya. Roger. Rico. Plasma grenade fired. Okay. Roger. 0J and I feel fine. Capsule is turning around. Oh, that view is tremendous. Roger, turn started. Roger, capsule turning around, and I could see the booster during turnaround just a couple of 100 yards behind me. It was beautiful.
You're obviously, if you're teaching economics, I'm assuming you're teaching high schoolers.
Yeah,
Okay, that's could
right.
be worse, I suppose.
I don't know if I could do a younger age group. I'm far too sarcastic.
Oh.
Just gonna look at you like, what are you talking about there, Teach?
I've definitely, the kids like me. I get really good reviews from them, but I do get a talking to from the administration every now and then about things like language. Listen, I believe in the First Amendment. I don't know what to tell you. We believe in the ability of free speech. I think that's very important.
Yeah, we're luckily had always planned on homeschooling anyways, and had kind of gone to lengths to make sure that we could set up our life for that. And I see a lot of families out there kind of struggling with what they're being told to accept right now. And I'm just always curious about other people's feelings, and especially someone who has like one foot in both sides of that equation.
Yeah, I realize there's a bit of dissonance here, right? In terms of how I feel politically and how I interact with education, both as a professional as well as a parent. The elementary school that my children go to is highly rated. It's quite good. The principal cares about what he's doing.
Public or private? You mind me asking?
It's charter, so essentially public, but private-y.
No, I get it.
Okay.
I understand the whole charter school thing. Like, oh yeah, they're private. They just have to adhere to everything else that the other schools have to as well.
Yeah. Well, actually, there's a lot of stuff we get to ignore. Also, my high school I teach at is also charter system. So there's a lot of freedom to be enjoyed there. There is some degree of, you have to follow standards or state testing, but there's a lot of other little hoops we get to ignore. So that is kind of nice. I get a lot of freedom to teach what I want to teach in my classroom. And my principal is a little bit more, let's say, conservatively minded.
Well, that's
quite nice. So she understands me when I'm talking about capitalism.
How many hoops do we got to jump through, Liz?
I mean, it was interesting just because we talked about this in a recent episode about looking at the Ohio state standards and the way that they actually arrange them. And I have no idea how much of that you as a teacher actually have to kind of go through item by item and adhere to and kind of prove that you're doing. But it seemed like so much stuff to have to keep track of and like kind of check off all the boxes.
Well, I'll say this. It seems complicated because somebody is making themselves look really smart by writing these things.
Gotcha.
And you put it in your lesson plans and then you do whatever you want.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? As long as the kids can pass the exam, like you might have 4 different standards that have these big, long names and descriptions. And then you look at the actual exam and it's like one question will cover all of them. And so you learn to like,
oh, okay.
It's probably not the same with math, but at least in terms of government and econ, like a lot of that is hand waved and then you do what you need to do.
Okay.
Well, yeah, because when we looked up we couldn't find We just wanted to know what we had to do to cross our T's and dot our I's as far as homeschooling went, and we couldn't find it. So all we could find was like the standards for teachers. Like that was it.
That's probably it.
This is what you have. This is what you have to cover in first grade.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay.
Oh my gosh.
That's okay.
It didn't seem like a lot.
Sure.
But it was like, it was written to make it seem like a lot.
See, kindergarten and first grade, now that gives me fear because like a high schooler is basically a small adult that's kind of dumb, you know, but like a child needs to learn how to read, man. Like,
okay.
like first graders and kindergarten, they have to learn to read, man. That's like, if you do nothing else, you got to do that. And that is way too much pressure, you know?
Yeah.
Nah, she could do it before we ever got to that point.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. Thank God. Somehow genetically it just, or something.
Good on her.
I guess that's always been my thing. Like when people stop telling me how smart my kid is, I'll worry about what the fuck she's learning. It's yet to happen.
If she does nothing more than read, I mean, she's good, right? I mean, that's the most important skill you learn in school, period.
Well, when we started talking about Irma Land and her understanding of economics was a little thin.
Well, sure.
Yeah. We are really going to have to do something about that.
She really needs to get through these Tuttle Twins books a little bit more, a few extra times.
Yeah, I kind of curated a small list of libertarian-leaning but mainstream children's books.
I would love to, if you have a link to that, I would love to put that in the episode.
Yeah, I have a doc somewhere where I've got it, but I'll send you a list. But one of the books I really enjoy for little kids is The Little Red Hen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
The hell's a Little Red Hen?
Tell them the story.
You don't know the story of the Little Red Hen?
Does someone cook it up and eat it?
What? Well, no. Basically, the idea is you're going through all the steps that it takes to make this bread, and the hen is, you know, putting in all of this effort, and you're recognizing, you know, that it doesn't come from nowhere.
It's going to be a pot pie. I gotcha.
You know, basically, in the end, the person who actually puts in the capital to create those supplies to make the product is the person who should benefit from the product, is the result of the story.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I'd say that is pretty good economics.
That reminds me, I got into, someone started, I was on Anthony Samarov's Facebook page today, and someone was talking about like when the world where people don't have to make their own, you know, don't really have to do much to survive. And I'm like, they seem to think that, well, that means that people aren't going to, I guess they seem to not understand that stuff still has to come from somewhere and someone still has to produce it. And whether or not it's automated or not doesn't change that relationship to that in an economic sale. It just means you're beholden to someone else to produce and create it. And the person who's commenting didn't seem to grasp what they were signing themselves up for in that world. Like, great, if human beings are so wealthy, we don't have to do that, but you're still beholden and indebted to the person who did produce that and did take those resources and make them something you want. It was a very frustrating conversation. That's why I'm glad I took Facebook off my phone. I really need to take it back off again or something.
Well, it's so frustrating because that is so just day one. Absolutely. Like, do you understand the circular flow model at all?
Well, they have it in their head that capitalism makes so people have to work hard for things. I'm like, no, nature makes it hard where you have to work to survive. Not capitalism. Nature itself. If you don't work hard, you will die because food doesn't fucking, you know, doesn't just grow necessarily.
No.
And even where it does grow necessarily, you still got to make it something that your body can take. Because let me tell you, you don't go and properly take care of the food that you put in your mouth, you'll shit your brains out eating the wrong berries, or you'll die trying to eat the tiger before you kill it.
Yeah, poverty is the natural state of living creatures.
Yeah.
And people don't seem to understand that. Like, it's like in the environmentalism movement where I'm familiar with for reasons, people think of the world as everything being in harmony and it's this thing this world is perfect for us already. No. Human beings need to make it perfect for us. You can agree whether or not that's good or bad, but you can't pretend that it's not the case. Like, the planet is very hostile toward humans.
They're also, the species are very hostile towards each other. They're hostile towards the environment. I mean, human beings are one of the most peaceful creatures on the planet. Compared to pretty much, I'm trying to think of anything that is more peaceful than us. I don't know, caribou, right? Like, but even their existence is fraught with danger and horror. On a daily basis. The loss of children, which is like the worst thing we can possibly imagine.
Oh, sure.
As human beings, at least for me, you know, that is daily life in the life of the caribou, right?
Mhm.
And what's crazy is our friends on the left who make this appeal to nature fallacy are still familiar with Dawkins, right? A lot of them are still atheistic, or they believe in, climate change and that sort of thing. And so it's
Just for the record, I still consider myself a leftist. I don't care what they want to believe. Like I'm a lefty. I just happen to learn economics. I don't feel like that should make me not a lefty anymore.
fair enough. You know what I mean? And so I think they, in a lot of ways, that I would say both political parties have done a really good job of, let's say, turning their ideals into a sort of religious format, right? Into creating dogmas.
Have you read Michael Schellenberger's most recent book?
No, I haven't.
Apocalypse Never.
Yeah.
You really should get on it. You'll love it. Because a lot of I think he's writing one specifically about his other premise that, in particular, environmentalism is a religion.
Sure.
It carries all of the same original sin, like all the shit that you get in the Bible is all built in there. And you start analyzing the shit that's going on in the world against that lens. Like there's some serious crossover.
Well, and this is something that Ayn Rand talks about a lot, is using this idea of altruism
Sure.
to do the worst possible things that humankind has ever done, because we talk about the good of the community over the good of the individual, which is the ultimate minority, right?
What was funny is you were talking earlier about, making the game enjoyable and, getting your characters invested in your D&D so that, they'll have more fun. And the thing is, to me, I see that as a selfish act.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Because they'll continue showing up and you'll have people to play with if they enjoy themselves. Like, you just got to game theory that shit out. Follow it to its logical conclusions. Follow the incentives. To me, that is Austrian economics. Just follow the incentives.
Yeah, I do take selfish pleasure in others having fun and applauding my game, right? Ultimately that is what I work for. I want them to say, wow, that was an amazing session.
Yeah.
And the moment you say, and that's where we'll end it for tonight, you want your table to either breathe that sigh of relief or to go, no, that's the best stuff.
Yeah.
That's the good stuff.
Just remember, always think of incentives and the natural progression of things. That's why every teenage kid should go out and learn how to eat pussy. You'll be loved by all women. It will drastically change your life. I tell you right now.
Oh my gosh.
I'm a fan.
There you go.
So I know I always love to make it awkward there, Liz. That's always the goal. At some point, I'm gonna.
No.
Yes, our last guest. I know I started there talking about chicken fucking in the first episode, but we ended it where we should have.
No, it's actually my at work that conversation keeps coming back because we were talking about it. So it's just
At work, that conversation keeps coming up.
yeah. Well, I mean, just because I work with blue collar guys, they have dad bods and whatever, and just it is a useful skill, and having useful skills will always make you indispensable, or at least less dispensable. So there you go.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with taking selfish pleasure.
I mean, she came home the other day, and I'm pretty sure she told me that she was offering to blow all the guys at work, and I'm like,
That is not what that was. No, it was just that conversation.
I mean, whatever. As long as I'm getting video, whatever.
Yeah. What?
At least make it interesting for me. I got to get something out of this too.
All right. I feel like I'm learning a lot here.
There you go.
Remember, I said lefty, so the whole thing. Atheist, fucking weird sexual peccadillos. I got it all. We're there. Me falling in with the Tom Woods crew was always a weird fit to begin with.
Right. So you feel like you're more of a Dave Rubin leftist then? Because I think he has the same feelings where he's like, hey, man, I'm on the left. They all left me, basically.
There's definitely a certain amount of it. I voted for prior to this most recent election, the last person I voted for was Ralph Nader.
Oh, that is pretty left.
I was a hardcore anti-war advocate.
Yeah, sure.
There are certain things that I can't deal with. The problem is that I discovered Austrian economics. I discovered, oh shit, there's a better way of thinking about this and a better way of examining things. And everything seems to fall into order when you start looking at shit that way. So it's all the things you would think that you're doing to help, when you follow them and look at history, they all tend to have really bad consequences that you don't want.
Yeah.
And yes, people being happy in the short term may be nice, but if in the long run, it's going to destroy elements of society, no more evident anywhere than with what all the help we offered the black community in the 50s did to them.
Mm-hmm.
And we're still fighting what we did to the black community right now.
I drive through a Native American reservation.
I grew up next to one, for the record.
Did you?
Yeah, the Oil Springs Reservation up in upstate New York. It's a Seneca reservation.
Yeah, I drive through Cass.
We bought gas than cigarettes there. It was cheaper.
Sure. But you can look around and go, well, well, this is what it is when you have UBI, basically, right? This is $5,000 a month
Yeah.
to do nothing.
This is what happens when you train people to live off the state. And I can tell you right now, they're not wonderful places to be.
No, to be fair, there's one or two houses that seem like they're motivated to, be industrious, but they are the exceptions, I would say. You brought it up earlier. It's about incentives. It's really that simple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us once again where our guests can find you, learn more about you, listen to you and your fun adventures before we head on out of here?
Okay. Well, I started a D&D podcast with my friend Andrew Gertzen. We're on Inspiration Point on Buzzsprout, but we are on all the different podcast outlets. So just look for Inspiration Point. You'll see a little picture of a knight considering something with a little exclamation mark near his head. I want to open a Patreon for that pretty soon. And we have a really good time. We talk about a lot of different D&D theory, and our catchphrase has started to become the secret ingredient is love. So not only will you get great information about how to make your D&D game better, but you will also learn the philosophy that underlies it, which is friendship and love. Well, check us out. It's lighthearted positivity for the most part with some deep thought. And I think that we could use a little bit more of positivity and lightheartedness in today's climate, right? We're getting pretty tired of everything
Yeah.
being grit and edge and anger and hate. We're kind of just over those things. We're just over it.
God, ain't that the truth? I get so much vitriol about stuff, and it's like, I'm the peacemaker. I'm like, I just want everyone to just be chilled the fuck out. Like, why am I the bad guy? Like,
Hey guys, what if we didn't have war? You racist.
well, no, I'm racist because I married a black woman.
That's right.
Well, yeah, that's its own whole thing, but
It's colonization, folks. Colonization to marry a black woman, and she's just a dumb rube that
anyways.
it's easy being colonized, apparently. So thank you so much for coming on, Adam. It has been a lot of fun. For everyone out there, check out peacefreaks.com. Spell it which of the two ways you like. Doesn't matter. Check out the show notes. Listen to our Monday episodes. I give more instructions on things you can do to help us out, but it takes up too much time in these interviews, and I like to get as much interview as I can in here. So take it easy, folks. This podcast is a proud creation of the Mad Audio Lab. For more information, check out madaudiolab.com. Peace Freaks is part of the Liberty Hippie Podcast Network. If you like what we do, be sure to check out Homesteads and Homeschools, Free Markets Green Earth, Cannabis Heals Me, and This Week in Liberpods. We're living proof that libertarian doesn't mean washed up Republican.